One of the things that I recommend for every new dungeon master is to run like 1 to 3 one-shots before actively going out and running something like a pre-built campaign, and then after you've done that, you can go off and run a homebrew campaign. The reason I say this is because you want to naturally build yourself into put yourself in the seat of dungeon mastering, I guess I should say. There's a lot of things about dungeon mastering that are very difficult to learn if you're trying to just raw dog a homebrew campaign from the beginning. A piece of advice that several people have opted to not listen to, but you know, it is what it is. They'll learn, like I learned, that trying to go balls to the wall deep, all out, all in at the very beginning is not a good idea. But for those of you who want to learn, here is how to write a one-shot.
Riser, double.
I take how much damage? So the very first thing you want to do is set a goal for the one shot. Now, I did a video a while back called How to Plan a Session, and in that I gave you guys a one shot campaign that was basically how you outlined a session. Now, I'm not going to go through all of that again because, like I said, you can go watch that video. There's actually chapters in that video, so you can just skip to the part where I'm actually planning the session out if that's what you want to do, but I am going to go over the bases real quick here. You want to plan out the session pretty much. Set a short-term goal, come up with a few NPCs for the players to talk to, build a dungeon with the layout of the enemies, and then have the end goal go off. Now, the way that you do this can be one of several ways. You can have them do something like recover a stolen necklace. So in the example that I did inside of my video, How to Plan a Session, I said that you can have them go to a baron that had the necklace stolen. Then the baron that had the necklace stolen points them to another noble family. They go to the noble family, but they say that they have nothing to do with it. Turns out they had something to do with it. They sold it to a bandit, so now you have to go to the bandit cave, beat the bandits, get the necklace, and then go back, and then the baron that had the necklace stolen might reward you in some sort of way, with money or the ticket into a castle, or whatever the case may be. But you can also raise the stakes. You can have a one-shot campaign where a local werewolf has been destroying people, like actually killing people, and your party has to go out to the werewolf's nest and kill the werewolf. Whenever you're doing a one-shot campaign, always make sure that you follow one major rule though. Only have one RP and one dungeon crawl. You don't ever want to bloat your one shot. One shots are meant to be maximum 4 hours. So you don't want your party running from place to place to place to place, going into shops, going into to talk to the king, going to talk to a random villager, like all in the same session, right? You either want them to go to the shop, and at the shop is where they receive their quests, or they go to the king, at the king is where they receive their request, or they go to a random villager, the villager is where they receive their request. You never, ever, 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 ever want the players to be bogged down with too much. The same thing goes for the dungeon crawl. You don't want a dungeon that's like 20-something rooms long, because then it's going to take up the entirety of the session. The entire point of doing a one-shot is to be able to get the players into the game, let them play, and then get them out. And you want to have everything that a regular campaign has inside of that one shot. Now, the reason I recommend the Plan a Session video is because at the end of the day, one shots are just your average D&D session, which always does include at least one RP and only one short dungeon. A large dungeon will often span multiple sessions, but the average session works that way. So once you have those tips in mind, once you follow the guide that I laid out in that previous video, you can then go off and talk to your players. So how do you explain to your players what they need to come up with for a one-shot campaign? Well, there's one of two ways to do this. If you have 1 to 3 one-shots, make sure you set them in the same world, and then your players can just take characters from one shot to the next. But if you're only planning on doing one shot, I'm sorry, saying one shot is throwing me off. If you're only planning on doing a single one shot, then what you might do is tell your players, I wouldn't worry about backstory. Not too much, right? You can give your players a little bit of backstory. Maybe they'll write maybe like a couple of paragraphs or something, but don't let your players get overly invested and create these characters with massive 2 to 3 page backstories to give you when they're gonna use them for literally one session. Now, I highly recommend that you go to the first route, having 3 one-shots or so that you want to do, and letting them just take those characters from one-shot to one-shot, because then it also gives you the opportunity to learn how to run multiple sessions without actually having to run multiple sessions back to back to back. It's one of those things where you get to understand, you know how to understand the characters. But the other thing that you want to make sure is that everybody stays within a single level limit. So players might start at level 3 for the go fetch a necklace, but for the werewolf, you might want to put them at like level 5 or level 6 or something like that. Just make sure that their levels match what they're going to end up accomplishing, and always make sure that the end goal involves them beating something. My last advice for the one-shots is try not to make the goal of the session huge. Don't give them a fucking lich fight as a one-shot, you know what I mean? Or a Tarrasque or a Kraken or something like that. These are all campaign-ending bosses, and it's very, very bad. You really, realistically never, ever want to put your players in that situation. You always want those gigantic creatures, those massive powerhouses to be the end of an actual campaign. So try to keep it simple, you know, bandit captains, assassins, werewolves, things like that. Try not to go all fucking, you know, Curse of Strahd in one campaign or something like that. But that's all I have for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed the shorter video. I appreciate all of the support that I've been getting recently, and yeah, you guys have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.